On April 5th of 25, our girl decided that she was tired of living in a highly abusive environment. She gathered all of her belongings, snuck out of her house, and carried them one by one to her friend's house, placed all these tubs and garbage bags on the friend's porch. And the next morning when sun came up, she knocked on the door and basically told her friends that she was moving in. She was not going to live where she was anymore. She was 14. Her friend's mother did exactly what she should have done and called the police and got DHS involved. And they came out and started their investigation and found that she had 2 brothers and took all the children into care due to environmental issues and obvious abuse. It was a turning point that day. It was the day that she realized that she didn't have to live in an abusive situation and that there were people that she could trust that were adults. So she left with an investigator, and with a DCFS investigator, was taken to the office and was processed into foster care with her 2 brothers. So they moved into our home on Monday, and I want to say it was April 7th. The youngest came to the home first, and he was super excited. He got to see our big house with all the beds and all the things. And a couple hours later, big sister and big brother showed up. And one of the first things they noticed was there were no roaches. There were no rats. There wasn't trash piled everywhere. And so we spent the next several weeks getting to know these kids, getting to figure them out, and they were getting to figure us out. And very quickly, they began to show trust with us. They just believed us, which was weird. We've had 29 kids in our home, and I've never had a kid just believe us automatically. And they did, and they were happy. We got them in counseling. They didn't really want to talk at first in their counseling, but over time some of those walls began to break down. They got to tell their story. One thing that's really stood out to us is that the girl has told us on multiple occasions that when she was in the other environment, she would pray, and she didn't know how to pray. She didn't know who God was. She didn't really have any relationship with God, but she would pray and ask God to place them somewhere where they could go to church and learn about him. And she didn't even know why. She just knew that was something that needed to happen. She stated that her mother was a professing believer, but was not acting like one. So we started taking them to church every Sunday. For the first couple of months, the 2 older teenagers, they would kind of act disinterested. They were there. They weren't fighting going, but you could just tell there was like some disconnect there. But then we would go home and they would ask us questions. They would ask us questions about what was said in the message or something that they learned here or there. We made youth group optional at first because we didn't want to overwhelm them. But we encouraged them to go so that they could meet some kids. So they started going to youth group, and most weeks they would come back and our girl would be crying or she'd be sad. You could tell just emotionally not okay. And the boy, he kind of rolls with everything. So it was just like, oh yeah, I went. They had pizza. One week he ate 7 pizzas, not 7 slices, 7 pizzas. Yeah, that was an interesting day. He learned a lesson that day. After about 4 months, he says, Carl, I think I need to get baptized. Kind of looked at him, said, why do you think you need to be baptized? He says, I need to tell people that I'm following Jesus. I said, well, okay. I said, that's a really big move. And so I want to wait just a little bit. I'm not saying no, but let's just wait and see how things go. And there were some changes taking place in him that we couldn't explain. He was happier. He's a kid that you can see guilt on him when it's there. And he was carrying it and displaying it. But then we wouldn't have to ask him about it. He would offer to us what was on his heart. Or if we did ask him about it, he was broken over whatever sin was there. So the more we talked with him, the more we realized that this kid's made a profession of faith. So he was pretty diligent. Carl, I want to get baptized. Carl, I want to get baptized. So right around Christmas time, we got it arranged for him to be baptized. We did his baptism on a Sunday morning, and that morning I could tell she was disappointed. You could just see it in her face. It wasn't very long, a couple weeks. All right, Carl, I'm ready to get baptized. We start having the same conversations with her that we did with him, and she is far beyond ready. So I contacted the same guy at the church, said, okay, we need to schedule her baptism. He says, okay, well, you just tell me when you're ready. I said, no, I need you to tell me when you've got time because she's ready. He says, okay. Well, then April 5th of 26, 1 year to the day after she made that step to a new life outside of abuse and neglect and everything else that she was dealing with, she was baptized. And she turned to us the day before. We're getting ready for church that next morning. We're talking about the process of getting baptized, and I'm, trying to make sure she knows how to plug her nose and how to, don't let your feet kick up and all that stuff. And she says, huh. I'm like, what's that? She says, you say it was April 5th when I left my parents? I said, yeah. She says, huh. And I'll get the words wrong, but basically she said, it's the anniversary of a new life, and I'm stepping into a new life. So she's got the tears going, and I'm just looking at him like, oh, this is like the coolest God thing ever. So she was baptized on April 5th, a year to the day after coming into care. She's learned over the last year that Christ came to deliver. He came to make whole what was broken. And she rests in that to a level that most people don't. People who've grown up in church, we say it, we believe it, we know it, but we've not experienced it. She's experienced it. Like I said earlier, she prayed that God would put her in a home, that they would get to go to a home where they could go to church. They just wanted to go to church. They wanted to know what it was about. I really think just seeing the reality of God's work, his redemptive work, just through their personal life, and to know that, he placed us in their lives for this season. It's a humbling place to be in. We don't expect her to go home. We expect adoption to happen, or at least an adoption case goal. She's 15. She'll be 16 in a couple months. She's still got a lot to process, a lot of hurt, years of counseling, but thankfully she has the Lord in her life. One of the joys I've had with her is we have talked to them recently about adoption, and that it's just not what God's called us to do, but we do believe he's got a family for them. And the other day, after we had some very serious, very purposed conversation with her about this, she started making a list of questions. She listed 35 questions that she has for a potential adoptive family. One of those questions, which just floored me, was talk to us about God like we've never heard of him before. And the reason that she asked that question wasn't so that she could learn more about God, but was so she could learn more about that family and see if they can actually explain the gospel. What 15-year-old asks that question? But that's how important her relationship with the Lord is. She wants to make sure she's not just going to a home that goes to church. She wants to make sure they know and that they will step right up on in and continue to disciple. What's interesting though is we don't tell them that they have to believe these things and that they have to know these things to be truth. We just tell them this is the truth. This is it. This is what we believe. This is where our faith is. And then we try to allow them to watch us and see that faith live out. They had no metric to understand what Christianity was when they came into our home. But in a very short time, 1 year's not long. And really, both of them in less than a year came to a place where they understood that Christ is King